Congratulations! You made it to the final video in synthesizing sources. And you probably already have a 3 in synthesizing sources, so this video is looking to push you to a 4. Also, congratulations to me because this is the 12th video I just filmed in the last hour. Woo! Alright, so let's get started. How do you connect sources every time? So, synthesizing sources is something we do all the time. If you have two students who got in a fight and you want to figure out who started it, you talk to the students, of course, but that doesn't always tell you that much because usually they say he did it or she did it. So you want to talk to some other sources and synthesize those sources together. So you might talk to the cafeteria lady, you might talk to a student who was there in line, you might talk to a student who's seen the other two students together but not at that who wasn't there at the fight. And you want to put them together, compare more than one source to figure out what happened. That is the definition of synthesizing. So in our example, might argue that Jason started the fight because according to James, Jason and his friends were being kind of loud and joking around. And according to Dylan, Jason and his friends have been mean to Marco before. So we've got two different quotes in the same paragraph. Now, you probably already do that. So how do you get to level 4 in synthesizing? The rubric says, I compare and connect information from multiple sources, and I compare the type of sources. So we know that in order to get a 4, you need to use two sources in every paragraph or compare the type of source. So let's look at some examples of how that looks. So when you use two sources in every paragraph, for every key idea that you have, you need to be looking for two pieces of evidence from two different sources that prove that key idea. And you want to make sure you contextualize them so that we know they're different sources, give a quote from each source, and then explain what they mean and why they matter. The other option is to compare the type of source. So comparing secondary and primary, or someone who was wrote it from the place at that time versus someone who might be biased. So let's look at an example of that. Ramses shouldn't be called the Great because he lied to the people of Egypt. In Ramses the General, which is a primary source by Ramses, he says, I am victorious, me alone. However, the source was by Ramses himself, which means that he might have lied to make himself sound better. According to a historian describes the life of a soldier in Pharaoh's army, which is a secondary source by Professor Kent Weeks, he'd been forced to fight. This means that Ramses forced an army of men to fight along with him. This proves that Ramses shouldn't be called great because a great leader would not lie to his people. So it's a very sophisticated argument that you're making here because you're taking two different sources and comparing them to each other and saying, even though they say different things, I trust this one more because. Now it's your turn. What did you learn?